Good afternoon, esteemed guests, friends, and members of the Ukrainian community. We gather here today to rededicate a statue and to pay homage and tribute to a woman of great historical, cultural, and literary significance, a woman of indomitable will and spirit. Women's history reflects a broad diversity among women, but also includes issues and activities that cross international, national, and cultural lines. Female role models are generally needed to face the extraordinary changes and challenges we face in the 21st century, and Lesya serves as such a role model. We, the members of the Ukrainian community, are very fortunate as we grew up well aware of the iconic figures of our historical past, and Lesya Ukrainka figures predominantly amongst them. Extremely talented and particularly sensitive, Lesya rose in prominence to become one of the best-known Ukrainian female writers and poets of the late 19th and early 20th century. A multifaceted talent, she is not only an intellectual, but a brilliant poetess, a dramatist, critical essayist, and translator. Her choice of pen name, Lesya Ukrainka, which literally means Ukrainian woman, emphasized her Ukrainian heritage and roots. Realized that at this time in history, no books, except for fictional works, were permitted to be published in the Ukrainian language within the Russian Empire. Similar repressive policies applied to Ukrainian drama and plays. Utilizing and writing in the Ukrainian language was Lesya's choice, and served as her method of rebellion against the assault on the Ukrainian language and culture by the rulers of the Russian Empire. Her commitment to the Ukrainian language and her national heritage augment her legacy to that of political, civil, and female activists. Lesya's life was a life that was difficult and exemplified her courage and tenacity. One cannot but be moved by her writings, nor can we deny our feelings of extreme admiration for a young woman who entered the world of literature at the age of 9 and who matured physically and intellectually to become a brilliant writer whose works have been translated into dozens of languages. Her writings provide us a lens through which we get a glimpse of who she was. She was a woman with an extremely powerful personality. For some, she was a rebel, while for others, she was a literary great whose writings evoke a myriad of emotions. Her poetry was pro-Ukrainian and aimed against any kind of suppression and despotism of which she knew firsthand. What kind of woman was she? Her writings reveal a sensitive girl and later a woman who developed a deep sympathy for her people, who suffered from national and social oppression by the Tsarist regime. As the daughter of intellectuals, she was exposed to both Ukrainian and European literature, so that her own writing was influenced not only by Ukrainian writers such as Taras Shevchenko and Pavlo Chubinsky, but she was also influenced by others such as Shakespeare, Jules Verne, Lord Byron, and Defoe. Additionally, her character and her views were molded under the influence of Ukrainian folk traditions and the cultural greats who frequented their home. Her closest friends were individuals such as Mykola Lysenko, a Ukrainian composer, Mikhailo Staritsky, one of the founders of Ukrainian theater, and her uncle, a historian, Mikhailo Drahomanov. Her first poem was entitled Hope, written at the age of 9, in response to the arrest and exile of her aunt to Siberia, whose crime was her involvement in a political movement against Tsarist Russia. By the age of 13, she published formally her poem Lily of the Valley in a journal in Lviv. But by the age of 17, a diagnosis of tuberculosis would forever change the course of her life. Traveling extensively to visit diverse medical facilities and regions with warmer and more dry climates that included the Crimea, Austria, Italy, and even Egypt, Lesya turned to focus more directly on her writing. Her travels provided her with a richness of exposure to other cultures, which she embraced, incorporating her observations and astute impressions directly into her writing, while retaining her Ukrainian soul. She wrote prolifically and joined the literary circle of the Pleiades, which was devoted not only to the development of Ukrainian literature, but also the translation of world literary classics into the Ukrainian language. Women like Lesya Ukrainka were and remain groundbreakers. They never let anyone tell them they couldn't accomplish their dreams, or that being a woman hindered them in any way. Her travels, for health reasons, provided her with the opportunity to study the language the history, the culture, and way of life of every place she visited. She was fluent in many foreign languages and even read classical literature in its original form. She strove to acquaint her people with the world culture, thoroughly arranging a World Library series, The Ukrainian Reader. Her dramatic poetry, written in the form of philosophical dialogues, are perhaps her greatest legacy to Ukrainian literature, because she engages the reader with her sophistication as she probes the themes of national freedom, particularly the freedom for Ukraine, human dignity, and personal integrity. For example, her poetry that focuses on the prisoners of Babylon were actually intended to serve as symbols of the imprisonment of Ukrainians within the Russian Empire. Her dramatic works are a critical call to humanity to throw off the yoke of oppression, and she actively personally engaged in opposition to Tsarism, and her efforts led to her arrest by Tsarist police, and she remained under their surveillance long after her release. The drama Lesya Ukrainka, or the Forest Song, evokes images that are vivid and striking, a reflection some scholars believe are her very soul, with language that is elegant, with intense, profound images. And her life was an example of extreme courage. The elements of sorrow and misfortune pervade her poetry, but she never gave up her motto, which became the title of another powerful poem, Hope Against All Odds. The challenge I present you is that we continue to revere her poetry and writings and teach this to each generation of Ukrainian youth, but that it doesn't stop there. In order for her legacy to come full circle, we must extend knowledge of Lesya Ukrainka beyond our Ukrainian community so that professors, when establishing their content of world literature and poetry classes, include the writings of Lesya in their lesson plans so that the broader community becomes familiar with her talent. Only then will Lesya have a transcendent place in history, because her work, based on folk traditions, imbued with advanced social and aesthetic ideas, make her a poetess of international caliber. Lesya raised her voice through her writing in defense of human dignity and human rights. Her literary legacy mirrors the richness of the exposure she received in her home and of her heritage. And for those of us who have the ears to hear, her beautiful, poetic voice, mirrored in her literary legacy, has the richness of nuance and the depth of feeling that resonates beyond all artificial borders. We applaud you, Lesya Ukrainka. Thank you.